So in house property, what is required? There has to be a house. House होना जरूरी है. House structure. There should be bedroom, hall, kitchen, whatever is required. Because this kind of structure you might be getting in some party hall also. That income is not to be considered as income from house property. Okay. In that residential house, even though different kind of business to be uh, conducted by the tenant, many a times you must have seen and you must have observed, whether it is first floor and all, where the doctor has started their dispensary in that 2 bhk house property. Yes or no? Have you seen that? So in that case also it will be considered as income from house property. So once you have let it to your tenant, what kind of business they are doing, we are not material. We are concerned about the rent, what we have decided, what we are getting, and that income will be classified as income from house property. Here, the house can be classified as these categories. Which are those categories? One is LOP, let out property. Maximum questions or maximum weightage is to be given to this LOP part. Okay. Then second is DLOP. Uh, DLOP is deemed to be let out property. Deemed to be let out property. So actually it is not let out. Still we are assuming. Suppose you have more than one property and you have not let it out, or you have another property. One property you can keep it as self-occupied property. Okay, one property, one house property for all. For all means for entire family. For entire family means you, your spouse, dependent children, and dependent parents. Once again, you, your spouse, dependent children, and dependent parents. Earlier, it was not. That is why people used to have the benefit of more than one SOP. Why SOP they wanted to have? Because for SOP, you will find net annual value itself is nil. So taxability will never come. You'll realize how important is SOP in our tax computation and tax planning. Because in SOP, you will have negative income, and that negative income you can set off with any of positive income, or you can carry forward for coming years also to be set off in against any other positive income. That kind of benefit SOP gives us. Okay. So then it is known as self-occupied property. Then we have VLOP. VLOP means vacancy let out property. The let out property which has vacancy period for 1 or 2 months. My tenant has not paid the rent to me. So it is known as VLOP. I hope these things are clear. LOP, DLOP, SOP, and VLOP. Any doubt? So today we are going to have focus more and more on let out property. What is let out property? Which you have given on rented basis to someone, and you are getting rent from them. What you are getting rent is not be taxable over here. Why? See, we will consider as taxability because again this is all manipulation done by the SSC. Government come up with these kind of rules. Earlier, they never used to get appropriate rent. They always used to pay less amount of tax to the government. So then subsequently, government has came up with this kind of, you know, a notification, this kind of computation for house property. So what reasonable lateral value is considered over here? They want fair rent. Fair rent means what? The rent which is there fairly in that particular locality, reasonably charged in that locality. Like all of us, we are residing in Mumbai. We know the rent in South Mumbai is higher than that of rent in Bandra, than that rent of Borivali, then rent of Virar. Yes or no? Virar rent can never be equivalent to rent which is there in Cup Parade. है क्या? Tell me yes or no. So in that locality, as per their convenience, as per their historical benefit, as per the demand, as per the facilities, the rent decided. That is known as fair or reasonable land of that locality. Suppose, I don't know, it might not be exact, but yes, if we'll take the 2 BHK on rental basis in the locality of Borivali, it will be 25,000 to 40,000 per month. But same 2 BHK, if you want to get it in Virar, that will be from 15,000 to 25,000. So that is how the difference is there for fair rent, which is a reasonable rent of that locality. It is purely decided on demand and supply and other amenities of that area. Second is municipal valuation. Municipal valuation is the valuation which municipality every year gives for that locality. Municipality of that area is coming up ready reckoner, which decide what could be the saleable value, what could be the reasonable saleable value, what could be the reasonable rent. It is available. So that is known as municipal valuation. So they are stating fair rent or municipal valuation, whichever is higher. Fair rent, fair rent and municipal valuation, whichever is higher, we will consider to be compared with standard rent. What do you mean by standard rent? There are many locality where there is no municipality. In such locality, as per central government, there is a rent control act. There is rent control act by central government. So that's to have the respect to the central government. We have, if at all standard rent is specified for that house property, then we will consider whichever is low. 99 or 95% you will not find standard rent, because if you will talk about rent of any locality in Mumbai, Bandra, Malad, uh, and any area of Mumbai, that is fall under municipal jurisdiction, and municipal valuation will be there for your question. But if at all standard rent is there, then in that case, this value which you have taken as higher of these two to be compared with standard rent, and lower of this C or D, इन दोनों का higher, and then to be compared with standard rent, whichever is lower will be considered here, and that will be your reasonable latable value. Is this clear? Is this clear? What you will take? Fair rent or municipal valuation, whichever is higher. Okay. ठीक है? To be compared with standard rent, if at all it is given, whichever is lower, will be your reasonable latable value. क्या होता है ये? Will be your reasonable latable value. Is this clear? Okay. Then that to be compared with annual rent. That to be compared with annual rent. What do you mean by annual rent? Again, of course, this all will be valuation per annum only. Yeah? Fair rent to be per annum, municipal valuation to be per annum, etc. etc. What is annual rent? Suppose you have received annually some amount of rent, or you were about to receivable some amount, but there was unrealized rent, actual rent of that property. Unrealized rent means what? Suppose you must have seen in this year due to pandemic, many of the tenant were not having income. They could not pay the rent to the landlord. So, but you have to submit appropriate record to the government. Then only government will allow you unrealized rent. So, annual rent receivable minus unrealized rent will be your annual rent, or actually whatever the amount you have received. So, your reasonable rateable value or annual rent. Reasonable rateable value or annual rent, whichever is higher, whichever is higher, higher of these. अरे यार प्राइवेटली मत भेजा करो यार. Sorry. Higher of these will be considered as very important part of your computation. Gross annual value. Gross annual value. Very important junction for house property computation. So reasonable rateable value or annual rent, whichever is higher will be your gross annual value. From gross annual value, you have to deduct municipal tax paid by tenant less municipal tax paid by tenant. What you will get? Net annual value. हो गया. इतना तक आपने सीख लिया, मतलब आपको कंप्यूटेशन आ गया. Okay. From net annual value, there are two specific deduction. One is standard deduction, like what we have. These deductions are there under section 24 of Income Tax Act. So there we had section 16. Here we have section 24. Okay. Yes, A and B. So section 24 A and B. Yes. 24 A and B is standard deduction and B is interest payable or paid. Municipal tax paid होना चाहिए. Interest payable or paid दोनों चलेगा. Yes. For construction, renovation, repairs of house property. कौन सा interest है? Construction, renovation, acquisition, repairs and renovation. Payable or paid. Sorry. Okay. So NAV, 30% of NAV will be your standard deduction. Okay. Let it make like student only. One or two को change कर दो. A and B कर दो. बस. Okay. Interest paid on or payable on money borrowed for what? Acquisition, construction, repairs, renovation of house property. Okay. Will be allowed. Loan taken before 31st March 99 and after that is applicable for SOP There the limit is 30,000 and after that it is 2 lakhs. Okay, that we will take it up later on. And then if there is unrealized rent, what you have claimed earlier, in this year you have recovered that. Okay. So this is all what we have learned is there under section 22. The NAV of your self-occupied property is nil. Okay. Under section 23, under section 23, deductions are there under section 24, and these additions are there under section 25 for house property. So unrealized rent received will be taxable in the year of recovery. Arrears of rent. What do you mean by arrears of rent? The rent which were there in dispute between the landlord and tenant. Right? Earlier it used to happen. The tenant used to be the tenant for several years, and later on they used to claim this house property is mine. फिर दोनों कोर्ट में जाते थे लीगली, तो अल्टीमेटली बाद में लैंडलॉर्ड का ही होगा. सो टिल दैट फ्रेम ऑफ पीरियड व्हेन देयर इज अ डिस्प्यूट, उनको रेंट नहीं मिलता था. सो देयर इज अ ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ अरियर्स विच दे यूज टू रिकवर. सो वो बोलते हैं कि अगर आपका अरियर ऑफ रेंट रिकवर हुआ, उसमें से 30% डिडक्ट करना है अंडर सेक्शन 25B. रिमेनिंग विल बी चार्जेबल. ओके. So let us first discuss this part, and based on this we will do the questions. Any doubt for let out property? Should we start practicing questions? So again, as I have mentioned here, fair rent to be compared with municipal valuation, whichever is higher to be compared with standard rent, whichever is lower will be your reasonable lettable value. Okay, reasonable lettable value to be compared with actual rent, to be compared with actual rent. Whatever we will get will be my gross annual value. From that municipal tax, it should be paid, outstanding will not allow, and it should be paid by landlord. If the tenant is paying, then also it will not be allowed. If there is outstanding, not allowed. Dispute, not allowed. Will be your net annual value. Net annual value, from that we will deduct and deductions under section 24. Okay. That deduction was standard deduction 24A, 30% of NAV. The deduction was interest on fund borrowed or money borrowed. That was there in section 24B. Paid or payable, everything will be allowed. Then, if at all there is area of rent recover, will be taxable. Unrealized rent recover will be taxable in the year of recovery. Okay. Let us do one question. Then let me see how much you have understood. Even if you'll go to the textbook, everything has been explained here. Okay, so textual matter you can go, you can understand, you can see how the sections are explained. Even this format is very important. Okay. Here very clearly it is given LOP, VLOP, SOP, DLOP, etc. etc. Yeah, this is question which we need to do it. Let us take up question number 5, page number 127. Question 5, page number 127. Mr. Rakesh furnishes the following particular in respect of house property, which is let out for the previous year. Determine the annual income for the assessment year 2021. We'll go one by one. All house properties are let out. So these are the example of LOP. We will take it up first E. You can make the columns. We will do it later on. Okay. E, F, G, and H. So here it is given municipal valuation 4 lakh and fair rent 4 lakh 20,000. What you will consider? 4 lakh and 4 lakh 20,000. What you are going to consider? 4 lakh and 4 lakh 20,000. Higher of these two. So what is the value? Okay. Yes. Fair rent was given 4 lakh 20. Municipal valuation is given 4 lakh. Whatever you have stated is very right answer. Whichever is higher, 420 we have considered. Then they have given standard rent also. Standard rent was 3 lakh 50,000 as per Rent Control Act. I told you that is by central government. So now what you will consider? So 420 and 350. I will compare these two and whichever is lower. Okay, whichever is lower. So what you will consider? 420 and 350. 350 is absolutely right answer. Now to be compared with, yes, very right. So this is my reasonable lateable value, RLV. Okay, this is my reasonable lateable value, RLV. To be compared with annual rent. Let us see rent receivable is how much? Rent receivable is 360 and actually what we have got 3 lakh. 360 and 3 lakh. So receivable is 360. Actually minus unrealized rent is 3 lakh. So what you will consider out of these two? What you are going? No, 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 no. Wrong. In these two, we are going to consider what actually, yes, we have got. What actually we have got. So 3 lakh. Yes. Yes, 3 lakh. So 350 what we have decided here and 3 lakh what we have got it here. 350 or 3 lakh. Reasonable rateable value or actual rent. Whichever is higher. What you will get your value as? 350 or 3 lakh. Whichever is higher. Reasonable rateable value 350. Annual rent 3 lakh. Whichever is higher. So what will be your gross annual value? What will be your gross annual value? Absolutely right answer. That is 3 lakh 50,000. Yes. Very correct. Very correct. Now we will see the municipal tax. Municipal tax is 40,000 and that is paid. So will it be allowed? 40,000 which is paid. Will it be allowed? Yes. So it will be allowed. 40,000 and paid allowed. So net annual value 3 lakh. Yes, 3 lakh 10,000 is absolutely right answer. Similarly, if we'll go to next, I believe now this time more of the student will participate. 3 lakh, 370, 380, 480 and 420. 36,000 is municipal tax and which is payable. Will it be allowed? Will it be allowed? For F house property? No. Payable will not be allowed. Okay, so in house property, we have done columnar questions. As I told you, even in salary, last questions, you please do it. If you want to practice more of your gratuity, PF, leave encashment, last के कुछ क्वेश्चन बहुत ही इफेक्टिव दिए हुए हैं. You can practice them. Sorry. Yes, some student is getting me net annual value. Let us see what is the answer. You want me to solve or you can do it with your own? चलो 2 मिनट देता हूँ बच्चों को, आप खुद से कर लो. एक 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 मैं और करवा देता हूँ. रिमेनिंग टू आई विल आस्क देम टू डू इट. यस और नो? ओके, लेट अस सी. So fair rent 370, municipal valuation 3 lakh. What you will take? Whichever is higher. Whichever is higher. So what you will take here? Your value as all participant kindly participate. 370 is absolutely right answer. To be compared with standard rent, which is 380. So हर एक क्वेश्चन में कुछ ना कुछ उल्टा पुल्टा किया है. Yes, now whichever is lower. So again 370. So 370 is my reasonable rateable value. To be compared with annual rent receivable is 480 and actually received is 420. So I will take what actually we got. So 420 and 370. Annual rent and reasonable rateable value, whichever is higher. So what is my gross annual value? What is my gross annual value? Yes, many of you got me the answer. 420. Here it will not be allowed. Why? Because it is outstanding payable. Nahi chalega. So nil. So actual net annual value is how much? 420. Remaining two खुद से कीजिए and get me the value. See, believe me, whatever the time took, it was salary. Remaining these chapters are very, very simple. Yes or no? यहाँ तक आगे आगे कुछ नहीं है. 30% ऑफ दिस विल बी योर स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन. इंटरेस्ट दिया रहेगा, माइनस करना है. Will be taxable income from house property. Similarly, business profession and all, they are very simple topic. Only salary you have to be here also as well as personally, professionally also. And majority of the client you will find from salary income only. So you have to be very careful about that. Chalo, Tejas has got me G ka value 1,87,500. See, next time onwards, no. Um the question which I raise for common to the student, kindly send me the answer privately. Otherwise क्या होता है बाकी बच्चे भी देख लेते हैं and they are also getting me the same answers. So be careful about that. Whichever is higher, take down, be quick. You have only 1 minute. Gopika got me the answer. See, tell me whether it is G or H. Rest all student take it as homework. Consider it as homework. Sonal got me answer. Very good. Tejas got me the answer. Let me see whether these answers are right or not. Just below. Yeah, Gopika, you are right. Yes, Tejas, you are right. Where 187? Sonal, you are wrong. Kajal, you are wrong. So एक बार देख लो where you are going wrong.